Hello there friends, it's Ashley here from the Loopy Lamb and theloopylamb.com, and today we are starting the very first part of our Amigurumi Advent Calendar crochet along, and this week we will be working on the legs and the body of our dolls. So to go over the materials, we're going to need a worsted weight yarn in your preferred skin color. I'm using We Crochet's Bravo worsted weight in the color Almond, and you'll also need another color of worsted weight yarn, and I'm using Bravo worsted in white, and this will be for the doll's underpants. So go crazy, do whatever color you'd like for that. You'll also need a stitch marker, a pair of scissors, a 3.5mm or E crochet hook. This is a Furls Odyssey crochet hook from Furls Crochet. Some, it's off camera here, but some polyfill stuffing. And you'll need a ruler or a tape measure or something in order to check our gauge when we do a gauge check at the end of round 4. So the written version of this pattern is available for free on the blog, theloopylamb.com, or it's available as an ad-free PDF with all of the parts of the doll together in both my Ravelry and Etsy shops. So if you're ready to get started, please hit that like button and please consider subscribing to this channel. Let's get started. So to start with our doll, we're going to need our crochet hook and our yarn that we're using in the skin tone. And again, I'm using the We Crochet Bravo worsted weight in the color Almond. And we're going to be starting with our legs, and our doll is worked from the bottom up. So to start, we're going to need to create a magic circle or magic ring, adjustable ring, whatever your preferred term is. And to do that, we're going to lay the end of our yarn across our palm like so. We're going to wrap it around our hand, our fingers, and we're going to cross that yarn over. And then we're going to flip our hand over, and we're going to pin that yarn down. We're going to pick up our hook, insert the hook under the first strand, over the second, pulling it out under the first strand, and then we're going to twist. And then we're going to pick up the working strand of yarn and pull it through the loop that we created with our twist. Then we're just going to slide all of that yarn off of our hand, pull that tail out, and then now we have our adjustable ring to work into. So for round 1 of the leg, we're going to work 6 single crochets into the ring. So we're going to insert our hook into the ring, yarn over, pull up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through both loops. That's your first single crochet, and now we're going to create 5 more. So now that we have 6 single crochets done into our ring, we're going to grab the tail of our ring and we're going to pull that tight. And that's the end of round 1. And now we're going to start with round 2. Make sure you have your stitch marker handy because we're going to start using that, and it's going to be put into the first stitch of every round and moved up in subsequent rounds to keep track of the first stitch of every round. So we're going to insert our hook into the first stitch of the last round, and we're going to place a single crochet increase, which is 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So there's our first. Grab my stitch marker, put that in the stitch, and then I'll go back into the same stitch I just worked into and place a second single crochet. And now I'm going to place 2 single crochets into each stitch around. At the end of this round, I should have 12 single crochets. And now I'm going to start round 3, and I'm going to place 1 single crochet into the first stitch. We're going to move that stitch marker up, marking the first stitch of the round. And then we're going to place a single crochet increase or 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So there's 1 and 2. And now we're going to do the following repeat around our piece. We're going to do 1 single crochet in the first stitch and 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And again, we're going to do 1 single crochet followed by 2 single crochets in the next stitch. At the end of this round, you should have 18 single crochet stitches. And now I'm going to start with round 4 of our leg, and we're going to place 1 single crochet into this first stitch of the round here. Don't forget to move up your stitch marker. And then we'll place a single crochet increase into the next stitch. There's 1 and 2. Now we will place 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So here's our first stitch and our second, and then we will increase in the next stitch. So 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And now we're going to repeat the pattern of single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then a single crochet increase in the next until there's 1 stitch remaining. There's 1, 2, and increase. And again, we're just doing that repeat around our piece until there's 1 stitch remaining. Now I have 1 stitch remaining of my round, and I'm going to place 1 single crochet into that stitch. At the end of round 4, I should have 24 single crochet stitches. And now I'm going to take my hook out because I'm going to check my gauge. Now, because our doll does have clothing, just like if it was a sweater or a garment for you, you'd want to make sure that you match gauge in order to ensure that your piece will fit you appropriately. We need to do the same thing for the doll. So to do that, we can check our gauge now, make sure that our doll will remain, we're on track for gauge for our doll. So I'm just going to place this on my little pin case to hopefully help the camera focus on it a little easier. And I'm going to grab my handy dandy tape measure. And now we're going to measure across at the widest point. So that means we're measuring out towards the end of the round, because if I were to measure across from this point to this point, it's not quite going to be the same. So I want to measure across from here to here, the widest point of my piece. Now, at the end of round 4, my piece should be 1.5 inches across, and I am on gauge, so I know that I can continue on without any issues. So for round 5, we are going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch of the round, but we're going to work through the front loop only. Now, if this is your first time working into the front loop, I'll show you on our first stitch here. There are 2 loops on our stitches. There's this front strand here is the front loop, and this strand here on the back is the back loop. And so we're going to insert our hook up and grab only that front loop. We're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull through 2. And that's our first stitch of round 5. And we're just going to repeat that all the way around, working through the front loop only, single crochet. And our stitch count does not change for this round. At the end, you'll still have 24 stitches. So now we're about to start with round 6. And for round 6, we're just going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around. But for this round, we're going to be working under both loops of our stitches again. So here's our first stitch, and just don't forget to move up that stitch marker. And again, 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So now we're about to start with round 7 of our leg, and we're going to start using some decrease stitches that will close up this piece and start forming the toe of our foot. So I'm going to remove our stitch marker, and we're going to do what's called an invisible decrease. If you want a more in-depth tutorial on how to do an invisible decrease, I do have a video for that available here on the channel, but I will show you very quickly how to do one here. So to do an invisible decrease, you're going to work under the front loops only of the first and second stitches. So I'm going to insert my hook, pick up the first loop, kind of roll my hook and pick up the second front loop. And I'm going to yarn over, pull through both loops, yarn over, and pull through both loops. And that is an invisible decrease. And we're going to do that 5 more times. So again, we're picking up the front loops only of the next 2 stitches, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And we're going to do that now 4 more times for a total of 6 decreases. And now we're going to place 1 single crochet in on each of the remaining 12 stitches. So once again, that's 1 single crochet in each of the remaining 12 stitches. At the end of round 7, you should have 18 single crochet stitches. And we're going to start round 8, and we're going to start round 8 with another single crochet decrease. So again, in the front loops only of the first and second stitches, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Don't forget to move up that stitch marker. And then we're going to do 2 more single crochet decreases. And again, when they're worked under the front loops only, it's referred to as an invisible decrease. And now we're going to place 1 single crochet in each of the remaining 12 stitches. And moving on to round 9, we're going to start with 2 single crochet decreases. So here's our first. And here is our second. And then we're going to place 1 single crochet in each of the remaining 11 stitches. At the end of this round, you should have 13 stitches. All right, and there is our little foot. And now I'm just going to pull that loop up a bit because I'm going to take my hook out and grab my stuffing, and I'm going to start stuffing my foot. I just want to make sure that that working yarn is long enough that it's not going to unravel on me. Now when you're stuffing your toy, I recommend stuffing it firmly. You don't want to overstuff it where the stuffing is showing through your stitches and stretching your work. But when you kind of give your toy a squeeze, it should feel like a ripe orange when pressed upon. So I kind of like to just give it a little squish. If it feels firm, then I know that I've done a decent job at stuffing and I can move on to working on the leg. And that feels good, and you can see I don't have really any stuffing showing through, but the leg is stuffed firmly. We will continue to add more stuffing as we work. So for round 10, we're going to start with a single crochet decrease. And then we're going to single crochet in each of the remaining 11 stitches. At the end of round 10, you should have 12 stitches. So now for rounds 11 through 21, we're going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around, and this will form our leg. Make sure that as you're working rounds 11 through 21 that you are adding stuffing as you're going and that you are stuffing the leg firmly. Okay, because we're going to, when our dolls are done, we're going to have clothing that's going to be coming on and off our doll. So we do want it to be stuffed relatively firmly to give it as much longevity and structure as possible. So if you'd like to pause your video and do rounds 11 through 21, one single crochet into each stitch around, and come back to me when you're ready to start round 22, I will meet you back here. So I just finished round 21 and I'm moving on to round 22. To start, I'm going to place one single crochet into each of the first 10 stitches. Now when I'm about to do my 10th stitch, what I'm going to do is I'm going to yarn over with this color, but I'm going to change to my next color, which is white, for the doll's underpants. So whatever color you're using, you're going to do your last yarn over on your 10th stitch in that color. So I've got my white and I'm yarning over to finish that stitch. All right. So now that I've got my tails mostly all sorted here, we're going to work in the back loops only of the next 2 stitches, working with our white. And I find it helpful to crochet over my tails to help them from unraveling on me as I'm working. So working through the back loop only for the next 2 stitches, I'm just placing one single crochet into the next 2 stitches. Now for round 23, we're going to work through the back loop only of the first 10 stitches. So again, we're picking up that back loop only, single crochet. And we're doing this for the first 10 stitches. And now that I have my 10 stitches, I'm going to just single crochet back under both loops of the remaining 2 stitches of the round. And then for round 24, we're just going to place one single crochet into each stitch around. So I just finished round 24 of my leg. I'm going to add a little bit more stuffing, and then I'm going to finish off with both of my colors, and because I'm going to be moving on to my second leg. So I like to leave a longer tails for this because I'm going to try to crochet over them in subsequent rounds when we join our legs together. So I'm going to add a little bit more stuffing and set this aside. And so rewind this video back to the beginning and do the instructions for rounds 1 through 24 of the leg again. But when you finish round 24, don't finish off. Meet me back here and I'll show you round 1 of the body and how we're going to join our legs together. So pause your video, do your second leg in the same manner we just did our first, and meet me back here. So I have finished my second leg, and after I finish round 24 of the second leg, I'm not going to finish off like we did with the first leg. We are going to continue on working our body and head to eliminate any sort of seaming that might be needed if we didn't do it this way. I try to design my dolls with as minimal seaming as possible. So we're just going to move right on ahead with round 1 of the body and head, as it is all worked in one piece. So starting with our second leg, we're going to single crochet into the first 8 stitches. So just make sure that you remove that stitch marker and move it back at the end, or after you complete your first stitch, because we are going to need to know where the first stitch of this round is. So there's 1, 2, and there's our 8th stitch. And now we're going to do a chain 1. So yarn over, pull through, and we've got our chain 1. And now we're going to start working into our first leg. Now we're going to be starting to work into the third stitch of our first leg. So we've got our stitch marker in stitch 1, so we're going 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to insert my hook into that stitch. And then I'm going to just single crochet. And now I'm going to single crochet into each of the stitches around my leg 1. Now don't worry if you find this part a little awkward. The legs are joined very loosely now, so if you need to take it slow, don't worry about it. The second leg does tend to get in the way a little bit while you're doing this process. Now I've single crocheted into every stitch around, and you'll notice that I still have the tail from finishing off my first leg. I'm just going to kind of hold that off to the side here because I'm going to crochet over it in the subsequent rounds. So if you still have that, you don't have to worry about it. We're going to work over it. So we're going to move that stitch marker from the first stitch of the round. And my next stitch here will help to anchor that tail, keep it out of the way. All right, so I've now worked into every stitch around my first leg. And now we're going to single crochet into the chain. Now, if your legs are twisting around, it might be difficult for you to find that chain. So if you need to, just kind of flip it over, find the chain here, and then I'm just going to flip it back because I know where it is now. And I'm going to pick up that back, well, what is now my front loop, because it's facing me. It's actually the back loop of that chain, and you're going to single crochet into that chain. And then you're going to single crochet into each of the remaining 4 stitches of your leg. And now your leg, oops, goodness. And now your legs are joined, and from here on out, we're going to be working the rest of our underpants here and into the body. If you still have these tails, again, feel free to crochet over them so you don't have to worry about trying to weave them in. So this, where our stitch marker is from the second leg, that's going to continue to be our first stitch of the round moving forward. And for round 2 of the body, we're just going to place 1 single crochet into each stitch around. Now, when you come to the join, you're going to place a single crochet into the chain. And at the end of the round, you should have 26 single crochet stitches. At the end of this round, I would advise that you take the time to count your stitches to make sure that you have the 26 that are needed. Because I do find, especially if you're using white for the underpants, that sometimes it can be a little tricky to see where the chain is versus where your first stitch of the next leg is. And so it can be easy to lose a stitch in there. So just take your time at making sure you know where the placement of each of your stitches is for this round, and counting your stitches at the end. And now we're ready to start with round 3 of our body. We're going to start by placing a single crochet into the first stitch of the round. And then we're going to do 1 single crochet into each of the next 6 stitches. Now we're going to place a single crochet increase into the next stitch, and it's been a while since we've done one, so just a reminder that that's 2 single crochet stitches in the same stitch. We will place 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and single crochet increase into the next. Then we will place 1 single crochet into each of the next 7 stitches. We'll place a single crochet increase into the next stitch, and then single crochet once into each of the next 3 stitches. Then we'll place a single crochet increase into the next stitch, and we'll place 1 single crochet into each of the remaining 4 stitches of this round. At the end of this round, you should have 30 single crochet stitches. Now I'm just going to pause for a moment before we move on to round 4 and note that at this point, a lot of makers do tend to forget to continue to stuff through this portion. The stuffing can get a little bit in the way at this point, but we do need to continue to stuff, because if we fail to do that, then we'll have a really weak point here where our underpants are, and we don't want that. So if we want the best finish possible for our doll, just continue to remind yourself to add a little bit of stuffing as you're working to this point, because once you get further into the body, it gets hard to get a proper stuffing happening here in this portion of the legs. So I just wanted to take a moment to note that before we continue on with round 4 of the body. And so for round 4, we're just going to place 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So if you'd like to pause your video and come back to me when you're ready for round 5, I'll meet you here. And now we are ready to move on to round 5 of our body. We are going to place 1 single crochet into each of the first 4 stitches of this round. Now we will place a single crochet increase into the next stitch. And this is our pattern repeat that we will complete until the end of the round. We will do 4 single crochets, followed by a single crochet increase. We're just going to repeat that pattern until we're done the round. And at the end of this round, you should have 36 single crochet stitches. So if you'd like to pause your video and come back to me for round 6, I will meet you here. Now we are ready to start with round 6. Just a heads up is that we will be changing back to our color A, which is our skin color. So if you have detached it from your project, get that handy. If you're like me and you still have it attached, just as a heads up that we will be switching back to that color. So we will start round 6 by placing a single crochet stitch into the first 32 stitches of the round. Now I just started my 32nd stitch. What I've done here is I've inserted my hook and pulled up my first loop, and now I'm going to change colors. I'm going to do the last yarn over of my single crochet in the new color, which is our skin color here. And then I'm going to work into the back loops only for the remaining 4 stitches and just single crochet in the back loop only using our new color. Now I'm working over my tail of my white color here, so that way I don't have to worry about taking care of that after. And if you're prepared now, you can already go ahead and cut your white yarn or whatever color you're using for our underpants. And we're going to only be using the skin color from now on. So now we're working on round 7 of our body, and we're going to work 1 single crochet in the back loop only for the first 32 stitches of the round. So just so if you don't really feel like counting, you can just know that 32 is right where we left off before changing colors in the last round. So if you would like to finish your back loop only stitches and meet me back here when you're done, I will show you how to finish off this round. So I have finished my 32 back loop only single crochets, and to finish off this round, I'm just going to work back under both loops of the last 4 stitches and just place 1 single crochet into each of those stitches. And now for rounds 8 and 9, we're just going to place 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So if you'd like to pause your video and do 2 rounds of single crochet in every stitch, I'll meet you back here for round 10. All right, I have finished rounds 8 through 9, and I'm going to be starting with round 10. For round 10, we are going to start by placing 1 single crochet into each of the first 4 stitches. Then we are going to do a single crochet decrease, and again we're doing that invisible decrease stitch we went over earlier. And that is going to be our repeat for the round. We're going to do 4 single crochets, followed by a single crochet decrease. We're going to repeat that pattern around the piece. And at the end of round 10, we should have 30 stitches. Now for rounds 11 through 12, we're going to place 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So if you'd like to pause and do rounds 11 through 12 with just single crochet into each stitch, I will meet you back here when you're ready to start with round 13. So now I am ready to start with round 13. And for this round, we're going to start with placing 1 single crochet into each of the first 3 stitches. And then we're going to do a single crochet decrease. And that is our pattern we're going to follow around, or repeat around this round, is 3 single crochets, followed by a single crochet decrease. We're going to repeat that until the end of the round. And at the end of the round, you should have 24 stitches. And I'll just give you another friendly reminder to continue to add stuffing as you're working, so you get a nice even stuffing for your doll as you work. For rounds 14 through 15, we are just going to place 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So if you'd like to pause your video and come back to me when you're ready to start round 16, I will meet you back here. And now I am ready to start with round 16. And to start, we are going to place 1 single crochet into each of the first 4 stitches. And now we will do a single crochet decrease. Now we will do 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. Followed by a single crochet decrease. We'll single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. followed by a single crochet decrease. And now we will place 1 single crochet into each of the remaining 6 stitches of the round. For rounds 17 through 18, we will place 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So if you'd like to pause your video and come back to me when you're ready to start round 19, I will meet you there. Now we are ready to start with round 19, and we are going to start round 19 off with a single crochet decrease. And then we will single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. And now we will do another single crochet decrease. Followed by 4 single crochet stitches. Now we will do another single crochet decrease. And we will single crochet into each of the remaining 7 stitches. At the end of this round, you should have 18 stitches. For round 20, we are going to do 1 single crochet into the first stitch. Followed by a single crochet decrease. And we're going to repeat that pattern of 1 single crochet followed by a single crochet decrease all the way around our round. At the end of this round, you should have 12 single crochet stitches. Now for round 21, we're just going to place 1 single crochet into each stitch around. This round will be the neck of our doll, so make sure that we're stuffing it firmly. And we're going to start increasing next week when we come back to our doll to create its head. So make sure that you have your stuffing handy and that this section of the doll is stuffed firmly so we don't have any floppy head syndrome happening. So the reason for next week we're doing the head and hair cap separately is for those of us that have not done a head and hair cap before. It does help with making sure that you have more success with the hair cap fitting, because it does rely on having a consistent gauge throughout your project. So by doing the head and the hair cap in the same week, it can help those of us that are perhaps not matching gauge make sure that they also have success in making sure that their hair cap fits their doll successfully. So next week you will need to come back here with your doll, your crochet hook, some stuffing, a worsted weight yarn in the color of your preference for your hair, and a pair of scissors and a stitch marker. Oh, and as well, you'll also need a set of 12mm safety eyes for our dolls. So I will leave you here, and I'll meet you back here next week to finish off our doll. Thanks so much for joining me, friends. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And again, if you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and please consider subscribing to this channel. Thanks so much for watching, friends. Happy hooking, and I'll see you next time.